Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Mullah, for this comprehensive overview of the Standards Organization. The next speaker is Ms. Mary Saunders, who is the Director of Standards Coordination Office in the U.S. Department of Commerce. She has a BA degree from Vanderbilt and an MPA from the Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs, Princeton University. Ms. Saunders, please.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to follow Mr. Mullah. I want to just speak briefly about three aspects. One, the first, I'll explain a little bit about NIST's role in the United States, within the U.S. government, and in partnership with the private sector. Some information about our collaboration with the Saudi Arabian Standards Organization, with SASO, over the years, and then say a few words about the role of standards in protecting health, safety, the environment, and also in facilitating innovation and deployment of new technologies. So just briefly, as was mentioned, NIST is a bureau of the U.S. Department of Commerce. We are also the National Measurement Institute for the United States, so we are the Metrology Institute for the United States. And under law and policy, we have a special role given to us by the U.S. Congress to coordinate the federal agencies' use of voluntary standards in their regulation, procurement, and policy activities, and also participation in the development of those standards. This is a policy that's been in place for 14 years in the United States, and prior to that it was a strong policy preference, but it's been law for almost 15 years. And as a result, there are standards executives at each of the federal agencies, our entire range of regulatory agencies, like the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the Environmental Protection Agency, and so on. Our large purchasing agencies, Department of Defense and the General Services Administration, and a broad range of agencies across the government that use standards in policy activities. And looking at just the regulatory area, which is the protection of health, safety, and the environment, we note citations of almost 10,000 non-government standards in regulations in the United States, which is a significant increase over the past 15 years. We, as Dr. Mullah mentioned, we also operate the Baldrige National Quality Program. That's one of our extramural programs. And we are also the home to the World Trade Organization Inquiry Point and the Notification Center under the Technical Barriers to Trade Agreement. Just to outline our relationship with NIST and SASO, that relationship dates back at least to 1989, when we initiated a standards assistance program in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as proposed by our U.S. Congress at that time. And during its operation, which ran through 2004, the NIST-SASO standards program resulted in more than 1,200 Saudi draft standards and test methods, which covered about 140 product categories that were distributed by NIST to U.S. industry, to standards development organizations, and government agencies. That circulation led to over 700 comments being reviewed and forwarded to SASO for consideration and also for adoption as part of Saudi national standards. That program ended in its form at that time when the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia acceded to the World Trade Organization. But I just wanted to note specific areas of interaction included motor vehicle safety standards. We had quite a bit of activity in that area, tire and rim safety performance testing, household electrical appliance standards and testing, and quality system standards as well. We also had a long collaboration with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on building and fire safety codes area, and that is an area where NIST facilitated direct cooperation between SASO and the predecessor to what is now called the International Code Council, which led to the adoption of ICC's codes as Saudi Arabia building codes and fire codes. And work is underway currently on the implementation of those codes in the kingdom. About a year ago, in response to a request by SASO to Undersecretary for International Trade Sanchez during his visit to Saudi Arabia, NIST engaged one of our former deputy director, actually, Dr. Raj Sumerjan, who's the chief scientist emeritus at NIST, to consult with SASO for the purpose of making recommendations for the new facilities of the National Metrology and Calibration Center, and also on SASO's metrology programs in general. And Dr. Sumerjan prepared a comprehensive report, and I know he said he had a great deal of, and greatly enjoyed his time in Saudi Arabia and greatly enjoyed the interaction with the staff of SASO. Establishment of the new NMCC laboratories provides first-class facilities for SASO's current activities as well as for future expansion in new areas under consideration. And we strongly encourage SASO to continue to develop their capabilities to address measurement and standards issues of critical need to Saudi, to the kingdom and to regional industries, as well as to improve the quality of life for their citizens. Some examples are the area of flow measurements and standards, which are critical, obviously, in the petroleum sector, gas standards for emissions testing, critical measurements for clinical measurements for healthcare, and ionizing radiation standards for medical applications. And these are all areas that we spoke about in a great deal of detail with the SASO folks. And finally, from the last comment from the measurement side, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia became a member state of the Meter Convention just this year, and that provides further opportunities for international engagement and recognition of the Kingdom's measurement capabilities that are essential for supporting trade. So we, from the NIST perspective, will continue to collaborate with SASO in the international measurement field. Just a few words building on Dr. Molla's presentation about the important role of standards in the quality infrastructure and specifically in protecting health, safety, and the environment. A major part of our role in coordinating with federal agencies in the United States has to do with those agencies' reliance on voluntary standards in support of regulatory actions in the health, safety, and environmental area. And we found in that area it's very important for the agencies to be able to choose standards based on technical merit. If you look across the Code of Federal Regulations in the United States and the participation of federal agencies in voluntary standards activities, there are some 500 standards developing organizations at national, regional, and international level that have participation from government agencies. And many of the source of the documents that are cited in regulation in the U.S. are some of our best-known standards developing organizations whose standards are used globally. But equally important, their process is open, transparent, and easy access to a broad range of stakeholders, which leads to a very good document. We have a public-private partnership in the United States, which is very important. Standards are developed in the private sector. As I mentioned, there is law which discourages federal agencies from developing standards, but looking to the private sector first. And that engages quite a few of the stakeholders across the standards infrastructure and also leads to industry best practice being incorporated into the standards that are used by federal agencies. So we find this partnership has been very valuable in the United States. On the conformity assessment side, it's also critical that not only standards be incorporated into regulations, but attesting conformity to those regulations can be done through processes that are recognized internationally and supported in the private sector wherever feasible. I'll just give you one example, a recent example for the Consumer Product Safety Commission. About three years ago, the adoption of the new Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act required this Consumer Product Safety Commission to establish an accreditation program for labs that were testing products with respect to safety of toys. And NIST worked with the CPSC to develop a program in which the CPSC relies on ILAC-recognized accreditation bodies, accreditation of testing laboratories in over 100 countries. So CPSC has recognized the test results from over 400 testing laboratories from ILAC-recognized accreditation bodies. It's led to a very robust program and a very open and widely available program. That's one recent example of success in that area, which relies on the international collaboration through ILAC. And finally, I would strongly encourage and just reinforce the fact that was raised in the earlier presentation that SASO participation in these international collaborations like the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, the Committee for International Weights and Measures, and the Organization of International Legal Metrology are all very important. This is where the global community meets, certainly on the measurement side and in the conformity assessment side, to share best practices and to recognize each other's programs where feasible. And so we've found that those are critical avenues for gaining information about other countries' practices as well as gaining additional recognition for the Kingdom's programs as well. And just to loop back quickly on the standards issue, The U.S. system is somewhat unique, but we have a very robust, very flexible system, and we found from the federal government perspective that we have a system which actively and very effectively protects health, safety, and environment in the United States. We also have a broad web of I think, practices in the U.S. which helps protect consumer safety, including active labeling programs, truth in advertising, and a wide range of other what we call safety net activities, which helps ensure consumer safety. And that's very important to take into consideration in developing a program in this area. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saunders.